Toledo, we're famous for glass, Art Tatum, Tony Pacos, Jamie Farr, a world-class museum, the Toledo Mud Hens and Wildlife, an outstanding zoo and public library system. But who are the people that make our city so great? Welcome to the Soul of the Glass City podcast. I'm your host, Monique. I just got a lesson on how to say this man's name right. Even though I know him, I try not to say his name, his last name, because I don't want to mess it up. So we're going to do it the way it's enunciated in his culture. John Alvitre. Alvitre?
Alvitre.
Hey, I did it. So, John, please tell my listeners who you are.
My name is John Alvitre. I'm a Latino that came from Los Angeles, spent my time growing up there, California, Northern California, joined the military, did all kind of crazy stuff, and then ended up eventually at a college at the University of Washington doing some lecturing, teaching, and moved up in positions there, and eventually left the West Coast for this place called Toledo, Ohio.
And we're going to get into what you do now.
Yep.
But that's what I was like, he's going to do my whole interview.
Oh, no. Brief synopsis.
Okay. So growing up in Los Angeles as part of such a large blended family you were telling me about, what were some of the defining moments of your early childhood and how did they shape who you are today?
So defining moments for me are when at 2 years of age, first off, I should say, my bio dad left before I was born. So my family is the all-Mexican stepfather, his children, my mom's previous children, all that. So I grew up down in California, El Monte, California, Montebello, the whole East Los Angeles area, as a white-appearing Mexican, which is really fraught with a lot of danger because all of a sudden, the things I grew up with, I had a family of 10 kids, and they're all Mexican, but I don't look it. So if you know The Jerk, the movie where Steve Martin finds a whole new life, that was me. I look at the table, everybody is brown. I feel like I'm Mexican 100% too. And then we would go outside, and the challenges started. And it led to a lot of fighting, a lot of, no, you're not Mexican, no, you're not part of this family, from outsiders. So I grew up fighting my whole life in Los Angeles. My stepfather, who was also a Golden Gloves boxer, taught us to box. So that became my life. On top of it, he instilled in us these limitations. He said, we are Mexican. Because we're Mexican, nobody wants us. And we are an abandoned group, so much so that none of you will ever have an opportunity to go to college, to be lawyers, to be doctors. So he set the tone from the beginning and built a really harsh foundation for my life.
Wow. Which is going to make this even more dynamic when we get to the end of this interview. But you moved from the streets of LA to a small town in Northern California at age 11. What was that transition like for you, and how did it influence your outlook on life and your education?
So that transition was phenomenal. By the way, as a kid, I tell people this, I was maybe 8 years of age in LA, robbed my first house because that's what you did. That was that lifestyle. Now in Northern California, I actually went to school and started paying attention, and I started learning teachers' names. I started reading books because in LA we didn't have books in classroom. In Redding, California, we had books in classroom. I got to learn about the Chronicles of Narnia.
I loved
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, all of them. I read that series so much, and it helped develop my language because in LA it was just street talk and fighting. And now I had options where I never had these options before. For me, it started to break down my father or stepfather's beliefs, and I started challenging his beliefs because I'm like, people are actually okay here, and they want to see me do well. So it really, I would say it shaped my future, and it gave me curiosity where I never had that in Los Angeles. So it gave me a whole new way to look at there are different opportunities. What can I do? There is less of a limit. Still had some ceilings that I'd have to bust through. But at that point, I started to grow, expand, and rebuild that foundation.
Did that like stretch to your siblings too, like your curiosity and energy, and did you encourage them as well?
It did, and it's funny because the ones closer to me, my stepsister and my half sister, Mary Lou and Kelly, are the tightest and closest that I have in relationship, and they are my do anything for sisters. Because I have 3 older brothers, the brothers would take off and leave me with my 4 sisters at the time. So I was raised a lot by my sisters, and those women actually in my life were very instrumental in the way I take on challenges and I attack things or go forward. They were also instrumental in giving me a lot more platform to operate. My brothers that are the 3 older didn't get that opportunity, and they had a limited thought, and they never really broke out of that. So it did affect us.
Wow. So joining the military as a young man with the limited opportunities must have been a major life decision as well. What drove you to enlist, and what were your first impressions of military life?
So what drove me to enlist? Growing up in a large family, we always had 8 kids at home, even though there were 11 of us. One would leave, one is born, on and on. What I had is, and we as a family, is we had limited means. With limited means, we know nobody was going to go to college unless you found an alternate. So again, breaking that, belief my stepfather had for us, I saw the military as a way to get out of the environment. We were an individual or a family that, as individuals, we did not leave California. And I wanted to explore this thing called the world that I'm learning about in school because now I'm paying attention. So I thought, how can I get out there and see the world? So I made my first duty station Europe, which was a big jump because nobody in my family had even left the country. And I'm going to Germany to be stationed.
That sounds so scary.
Oh, it was very scary, but it was a lot of challenges that I wanted to see where I could go and where is the limit, this self-imposed limit or my stepdad's limits, and kept on breaking them. I got to the point where when I entered the military, there was a comfort also because I grew up with nothing but bunk beds. There were always multiple sets of bunk beds in the boys' and the girls' room. And for me, it was so funny because when I joined the military, I saw bunk beds and I'm like, there's a calming effect here.
Aww.
I feel comfortable with all these new family members.
So you ended up serving 25 years in the military,
Mm-hmm.
and that includes 6 combat tours in Iraq. What are some of the most important lessons or personal transformations you experienced during those years?
There were many, many different transformations that happened. First off, my belief is I was towing the United States line. This is something we're doing to protect us. And as I got more and more involved and more rank and provided more and more services to the locals, what I found is these were individuals very much like us. They just wanted an opportunity for life to be better than it was for their, from their past. They wanted to give their children more opportunity. And with that, I got to get much more involved. I actually, later in my time, I did a lot more patrolling with my unit, and I got to meet the locals and got to see what their dreams, their aspirations, and they were so minimal, and it reminded me of being a kid in LA and being told you're not going to get much out of life. Do what you can. And so these individuals, I see them wanting the same thing. And I just said, this is crazy, this whole combat thing. And then I started talking to individuals, and I found an individual as a medic, and I'm a trauma PA at the time. So when we talked, I found out that he and I were enemies in the Persian Gulf War. We're both trying to kill each other, period. No misunderstanding there. Now, at this point on my 5th deployment, we're breaking bread together. We're sharing the same patients. I'm helping them to save lives. He's helping us with our guys. It was such a flip that table, and just go the opposite direction. And so what we came to is that understanding that the people all wanted something good. And this whole combat deal is at a high political level. It wasn't what they wanted. So it was very shaping for the future.
Definitely just got chills. Definitely. That is amazing. And I just applaud you for even having that sense of humanity in the military. So you entered the military with no college education, and then you went on to earn 2 degrees. How did your time in service empower you to grow academically and professionally?
So time in service to grow academically, I basically, when I entered the military, I saw little opportunities because I was an E1 when I went in. Made it up to E6, then O1 to O4, so I retired as a major. But I went in at the bottom of the bottom level. When I entered, there were opportunities for people who were self-starters, and they would put opportunity in front of me. You're good at this, let's see what you can do with it. And that was never the way my foundation was built at home. So going in the military just shook my whole foundation, crumbled it, and I started building a new foundation. And I said, maybe I can go to school. And what's funny is when I went in, I got my college loan. I used that, and I got my first degree in education. And I had opportunity, and then I springboarded with that because I have a college degree. They wanted me to go to PA school down the road, and I did. So I got my second degree on active duty. I'm, in the military's IPAP physician assistant program. And at the same time, my sister, who is older than me, Kelly, I mentioned, she actually went into the Marines to get the college money. And because we broke that belief with our family, we actually became, in her case, a lawyer, and I'm in medicine. The two things. It's so just humorous that this is exactly what my stepdad said. You will never be, and we became.
Yeah, speechless. Very seriously, I'm just proud. Like I was just there with you growing up.
Yep.
After retiring from the military, you went on to teach thousands of future physicians. What did that role mean to you, and how does it compare to your time in uniform?
So I did get to teach thousands of physician assistants, and I did actually get to teach some physicians when I was on active duty. But in either case, what it was is both of those paralleled each other, the two deals, being in the military and being a college lecturer. The way they paralleled was I got to build a team. The team would grow. The team in turn, and this especially goes to the medics program that I taught at the University of Washington, that the idea the physician who created this program in the 60s had was, how can I extend myself? Instead of me being one provider, how can I extend myself? And so what he did, Dr. Richard Smith, actually, he created this program, which is medics, which taught others that had a lot of skill set, special forces types, to go out into the community and serve the community. And because he taught the first class, I want to say, was 14 individuals, he now had 14 individuals out there at multiple clinics that were actually extensions of his capacity. So instead of seeing 20 patients that day, in effect, he was seeing 20 times the 14. So now you see the numbers grow. And he did this year after year after year in the medics program. I got to do that in medics, but I also got to do that in Iraq when I was in the military, where we would go to other countries and I would get an interpreter, and I got to teach a lot in Iraq. And I got to really work with the locals and find what they needed. And it gave me a lot of strength. At one point, I actually challenged the U.S. State Department, who came with all this intent to spend millions of dollars unnecessarily. They just wanted to say we spent millions of dollars. So I got involved with the hospital they were trying to set up, and I represented them. And they wanted simple stuff because they said, we can't take on all this great stuff you want us to have. We don't have capacity. We don't have education. We don't have training. We need the basics before we get advanced. And so I fought, and the funny thing is, I helped, and we got the hospital the way the Iraqis wanted, and that's the last time the State Department took me out.
Hey, you got it done. Were you proud of yourself?
I was very proud because I represented the people that were not being served. They were being told, and I've always stood up for that person who gets stomped on, gets squashed. And I have a larger platform than a lot of people I hang out with at that time. And I will use my platform and I will defend and support those individuals. And that's been true to heart my whole life.
In 2020, you faced a life-changing car accident and TBI. And for those that don't know what TBI is, it's a traumatic brain injury. How did that experience reshape your priorities, and what drives your community involvement today, especially with your work in your neighborhood, the Old West End?
So having that TBI, I had 4 prior concussive events. I'm a guy who loves to jump out of perfectly good airplanes, paraglide, do the adrenaline-seeking stuff. I'm a trauma PA by profession. So
What
I
a
am
coincidence.
looking for all of that. I took care of a lot of traumatic brain injury patients at the point of injury, so I got to learn a lot about it. Then I had the accident where I was driving my car, an individual ran the light and totaled my car. I lost consciousness, and everything changed at that point because that became a big reset. When I got out of it, or as I was trying to get out of it, it took 4 years, where the first year I went from the injury and I just kept on declining and declining. And it was one of the hardest things because when you have a TBI, you're not supposed to think cognitively. You're not supposed to do the hard things. I was trying to read books and I couldn't even read a sentence and hold it in memory and read the next sentence. I'm a guy who, at that point, had to go to audiobooks because my audio I could listen to and understand, but my visual was very limited at that point. And then things I used to do, I love renovation, rebuilding homes. I used to build homes for the homeless in Seattle. So this is my jam. I'm trying to switch an outlet in my house. 15 minutes into it, I just looked at my partner then and I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I'm a guy who has done whole 200 amp service rewires. So I had limited access to my brain. And that was like being in a prison. I couldn't get anything out of my head and I couldn't put anything in. So for that year, I just kept on degrading and I kept on trying to take life as easy as I could. After that year, things started going up, but it took 3 additional years to get back to about 80%. I finally rose up, started seeing I had more capacity to be more involved. I started joining my community. Currently, I'm on the Historic District Commission. I'm a member of the Preservation Committee. I go to the Old West End Association. I join up with other groups. I'm trying to create a wine group right now with neighborhoods just to bring community together over common thoughts and themes. I'm also an individual working on a house we have called the 624 Delaware Project. And what it is, and this is a passion for me, is this is a smaller house in the Old West End footprint that was at the point of being demolished. But we got involved and happily worked with the land bank, and the land bank worked with us. They were able to sell the Old West End Association the house, and we have been putting in, like my friend Tom Guyton, another military retiree, has put in 3 years there, and I've put in over a year plus, year and a half, 2 years, actually close to 2 years. And what we found is this house is a small footprint, which a lot of people don't understand what that means. But when you have people coming into your community, if the price point of a house is $150,000 to $200,000, there are people that are not going to be able to enter. And a lot of times those would be the individuals from a lower socioeconomic status. They're trying to make things happen and they want that better life. And we got on this house because this is the one of the few that provides that opportunity for a small family to enter and to springboard into something greater. So we've been working on this house, and our goal is to release it back into the wild, into the public, where we see a young family occupy this home, and hopefully by Christmas. It's a big passion, where I've got to utilize a lot of my skills and get my brain going back, to where it was before.
It sounds like you found your own form of therapy.
I did.
And you got others involved that probably needed that same type of therapy.
Yes, we've had a lot of community get-together, expansion support, and defining our larger mission statement. And now we're talking about what are we going to do when we sell this and we have this, six or 100,000 plus of funds. How are we going to use that to serve the community even more? And that's the beauty.
I don't know. I might put myself in the running for the house, although West End is my favorite neighborhood.
It is. It is gorgeous.
But I just want to say I am sitting across from a miracle. I like this. I'm just listening and I'm like, wait, when this is over, I have to pull you to the side and go, how did God, what? Yeah, all of it, right?
Very much so.
You've chosen to settle in Toledo's historic Old West End, a place that's rich in history and community. How has living in Toledo influenced your perspective on life, service, and what it means to be part of a community?
So the Old West End, I will say, is a community that I came to sight unseen. At the time, I was going to go into the University of Toledo here and be get into the college lecture track and work in the PA program. They were having some challenges, and the TBI stopped all of that. And like I said earlier, the whole reset, redirect. So I became involved with my community, and what I found was a loving group of people, but not just in my neighborhood. I've been to the historic South. Another friend of mine, Fanny Effler, gets us over at Kent Library, and we talk about everybody on the northern and eastern side with Collingwood. What it is these homes go back to my beginning, where we used to spend lots of time, as a Mexican family does, with grandma. Grandma always had an old home. And there's so much rich culture and everything that I got to learn in that. And I'm getting to see it here. And when I see kids growing up in the same family with grandmother, it's a throwback to such a warm and loving time. And back to LA. And it's giving me the positives of my childhood. And now I get to see them and be somebody with a bit of platform and a bit of knowing what's awaiting these children and trying to everywhere and anywhere I can put that out and I could help them advance. I will and I do. The house is just one of the things, but talking about the Boys and Girls Clubs and everything else, seeing this community and a diverse community, more like what I grew up with, because I grew up in East Los Angeles, a lot of Latinos and a lot of African Americans and some whites. So we grew up in a very distinct area with a lot of influence from different cultures, and I see the same thing here, and my friends are very representative here as they are or were in Los Angeles. So yeah, I find that the community has many ways for me to enter, to be present, and to support my neighbor. And I just love that opportunity to be another member here in such a diverse collection of people.
Well, you have definitely made an impact, in the area that you chose to settle. And we are very grateful for you. Thank you for being my guest today. And I hope to work with you on some of these projects in the future.
Definite. Look forward to it.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm your host and producer, Monique. My executive producer is Chris Piper. Join me next time for another exciting episode of Soul of the Glass City podcast. For more information, if you have questions or comments, go to wgte.org/soul.
WGTE. Voices around us.